Can we have apologies for absence, please, and roll call?
Good morning, members. Thank you. I'll do a quick roll call. Councillor Baird.
Present.
Councillor Gale, Chair, I can see you're here. Councillor Hutchison.
Yes, here, thanks.
Councillor McGillivray.
Here.
Hello. Councillor Morrison. I think is not here yet. And Councillor Niven.
Not here.
Here yet. And Chair, I don't have any declarations of interest in advance, but can I please apologise and bring members' attention to at item 11, there is a mistake in the agenda. It says the minutes of the 17th of February that were approved by the council on the 2nd of June were circulated, but actually that should say it was the minutes of the 2nd of June that were approved by the council on the 26th of June. The correct minutes were circulated. It's just wrongly noted on the agenda, so apologies for that.
Okay, Fiona, thank you for that. That's no problem. Okay, and there are no other declarations of interest? No. Okay, right. Item number 3 on the agenda, recess powers. Committee is asked to note that the recess powers granted by the council at this meeting on 26th of June 25 have not been exercised in relation to the business of the Sutherland County Committee. Okay, item number 4 on the agenda is the police area performance summary. And we have Kay McRae, Inspector Kay McRae with the police report. Welcome, Kay. It's nice to see you along here. Your first meeting of the Sutherland Area Committee. So
Yes.
go ahead.
Yeah, good morning all. Thanks very much for letting me join you. I'm covering for the area commander this morning to present this report to you. So as discussed, the report is covering the period of the 1st of April 24 to 31st of March 2025 in relation to progress and respect the objectives within the Highland Local Policing Plan 2023-2026, and this is year 1. So as documented on the itinerary, this is the report which will cover all the priorities featured in the local policing plan, and I'll provide some local narrative when I can in relation to that for your information. So hopefully you've all got the report in front of you at the moment, and as mentioned, as I've said, is relating to 1st of April to 31st of March. The data within does cover the whole of the North Highland, so basically everything from the Keswick Bridge to Caithness and everything east and west of that. So whilst they are cumulative figures, I've looked to try and break this down into ward areas for you so I can give some details to provide some local context where I can in relation to that for you. So indicative in these reports from our North Highland Area Command, reiterating their part of the work that we carry out and the priorities that we focus on. Just a reminder as we go through this report and its relative content that COVID is still part of that 5-year data. So if we can just bear that in mind, and we're looking at 5-year averages of the figures. So turning to the report and firstly turning to page 4, first of our priorities there, road safety and road crime. So you'll see that there has been a reduction in fatalities to 3. This reduction is the lowest point that they have been for the last 5 years. And whilst I acknowledge that this is a reduction, sadly, it's still 3 too many. And each one identified in this report obviously relates to the sad loss for family, etc. Drink drive offences, we continue to detect a lot of people driving under the influence of drink and drugs. In relation to drug driving, our ability to do that has improved with technology improvements, and this is keeping our numbers high, and anticipate that this will continue to keep the numbers high, and drink driving, as you can see, is also high. So you'll see that we have in the last year certainly drink drive offences for North Highland, you can see it's 253. Relating to your ward areas, looking at that, we've got 30 offences for the ward areas covered in this report for the previous year, and 14 for the year 2024 to 2025. So speeding offences, again, this is the lowest in the past 5 years, and reflecting on this, we do undertake and carry out work detecting offences, but we also carry out educational work as much as we detect, so it's having a positive effect on that. So you can see that's the year to date there was 361. The bar graphs at the bottom show that if we look at North Highland as a whole, you can see that we are quite up there. I mean, certainly the 5-year average, and also the latter 2023, 2024, we were sort of the highest area command in relation to that, and we have dropped slightly for Inverness at 253 in relation to that as well, so that's fine. So we are 2023 and 2024, we were the highest area for people being caught drinking, drug driving for the mainland. Don't really have an answer to that. Such numerous cases, all varied reasoning behind it. Some of it's, perhaps rural area, people maybe taking more of a risk. But we continue to work with our patrols and intelligence-led policing and educate to try and deter this type of crime. So turning to page 5, we've got the antisocial behaviour and violence. So drugs disorder, alcohol and drug abuse. So the first page there, obviously we've got murder. Thankfully we've had no murders in the 24-25 year period. Certainly the year before we've got 2 in our counting figures there, one of which was in Caithness and one in Allness, and the one in Allness, obviously the individual's been to High Court and obviously sent to a youth offenders institution. Turning to assaults and serious assaults. So we've noticed a rise in serious assaults, and this is something we're working alongside our partners with. Our detection rates do remain very high for those. So as per the report, you can see we've got 29 in 2023 and 2024, rising to 43 in 2024-2025 for North Highland. Again, if we're breaking that down into your council ward areas, it gives us 2 for the 23-24 period and 6 for the 24-25 period in relation to your ward areas. So we are doing what we can in terms of detection, and prevention is obviously slightly more challenging. We've looked at some of the details in respect of some of these rises in North Highland and specific violence, but there's no sort of current reasoning trend as such in relation to that. For example, some of the age ranges can be out with what you might normally or anticipate to expect. It can be folks in their sort of late 30s, etc., rather than maybe folks early 20s, late teens. So it's also quite sporadic where the assaults are happening as well. We're ranging from licensed premises, private houses, public spaces. So it is challenging, and we're effectively looking to try and work to prevent these occurrences. We are working with our partners, for example, housing. We have weekly meetings with housing to try and make some effect on that and incorporating patrol plans in areas identified where we've seen a spike in some of these figures. So that work is ongoing. Assaults itself, rather serious assaults. So we have a 69% detection rate for your council ward area that we're talking about. So that's slightly lower than the North Highland average in relation to that. We've got, I'm trying to get some cumulative figures here for you. So drug possession offences, we're seeing an increase in terms of people being caught in relation to this for your ward area. So 9 for the year 23-24 and 16 for the year 24-25. And I'll touch on supply offences later in the report. In general, antisocial behaviour, violence, we're doing a lot of work, as I was mentioned before, with housing, work with them weekly. There are areas within North Command, Highland Command, where there is spikes, and we continue to work where we can to prevent and detect in that area. And as detailed in the report there, you can see we're highlighting about the harm prevention officer that we have in place and the No Knives, Better Lives initiative. It's free to know and to be aware of. Turning to page 6, so we've got acquisitive crime. So housebreakings, again, you can see on the North Highland Command figures there's a rise in them from 39 year 23-24 to 55, 24-25. To put this into context, because locally the figures reflect that as well for your ward areas, 2023-24 there was 1, but in the year there was 24 for the following year. So to put that into context for you, there was a spate of break-ins into caravans in the Dornoch area, which was over one night, and that obviously reflects on the numbers that I've just highlighted to you there just now. In relation to the detection rates, that inquiry is probably, if it's not detected, it's certainly near the conclusion. So that detection rate will probably reflect in the next report that you will receive. House break-ins do remain challenging in respect to the rural area, and sometimes the investigative opportunities that are available. Frauds. So we've got frauds there as well, 168 year 2023-24, rising again to 178 for 24-25 for North Highland area. For your council ward areas, we've managed to break that down to 21 for the 23-24 area and 30 for the 24-25 area. So we're seeing we do have victims of fraud in our area, and often what happens is that the victims, they can be targeted online, and investigative lines can sometimes be out with the country, and we've also got the banking protocol where we do a lot of work with our partners to try and identify vulnerable people who may be victims of fraud, and to try and stop this from happening, and supportive measures in place for them. Shoplifting, so we have seen a significant decrease in that. In North Highland, the year before is 353, year to date 24-25 is 212. So that is good, positive news across the North Highland area. The detection rate for this is also high in North Highland areas, and that's replicated nationally as well. So generally on a whole, this is an improvement. To highlight that, we do have sort of resources in place in relation to the Scottish Government. Have recently released a 3 million budget into a national initiative into theft by shopliftings, partly to assist with shopliftings in general, because trend is on the way up, and with detection rates trending down the way as such. So for a number of reasons, but North Highland will, and maybe I may already have bid for some of that funding, because we certainly have the retail crime task force in place for that. Theft of motor vehicles, so again highlighting on the report, 2023 for North Highland it was 48, 24-25 that has come down to 30. For your ward areas, again a bit of local context, it was 8 for the 23-24 period and 3 for the 24-25 period. So that has gone down, and it's the lowest it's been for the 5-year period. Again, perhaps to give a bit of context to that, some of these incidents we know, for example, are people who know each other. We've taken a car, left it. We don't really have an issue, North Highland, in relation to this type of crime as a whole, or folk individually randomly stealing cars. So there is some context in relation to that. Turning to page 7. So we've got the hate crime. So just to mention, relation to the hate crime bill is in place, and that has changed the definition of what is a hate crime and the protected characteristics of people who can be a victim of a hate crime. So as a result, we're not able to give you the 3-year average, and likewise in relation to change in record in relation to domestic crime as well. So that's the area in the report you can see there. Rates, 47 for 2023-2024 for North Highland, and that's increased to 64 in 2024-2025. So there is a significant rise there, and this is very much in keeping with what we're finding locally and nationally. Appreciate this is subjective, and we believe that there's perhaps a rise in victim confidence in coming to us, and obviously we're doing vast amounts of work with partner agencies around this, and third sector agencies as well. So for example, rape, sexual assault services, Highland Rape Crisis, so we do an extensive amount of work with them to support the victims, to give them the best possible service and experience, and also hopefully assisting them in coming forward. So domestic hate crime, as I've mentioned earlier. Missing persons, we are the lowest point it's been for 3 years. We're down to 3 last year. We have refined that there are can look at the figures there. So children who are looked after, children or care experienced, young people we find have a higher prevalence of going missing. So that's, I'll cover up there. Turning to page 9, and I know we've highlighted on drugs, possession of drugs. So we do have a proactive team for North Highland area, which we do feel is generates some positive results that we can potentially see today. Drug supply offences, as you can see, is up from 37 in 2023 to 48 in 2024-25 for the North Highland area. So there is a trend that's rising, and it's rising for North Highland area as well. So, and it is the highest it's been for the last 5 years. There's like context that we do find a lot of the drugs are finding it's still local people involved, like local drug dealing, and we do have a very small area that comes to sort of the outlying areas from ourselves, from county lines, mainly in Inverness, but they do generally touch out, so that's something to be aware of. But it is at the moment generally local people, local areas still involved in drugs. Turning to page 10, we've got the counter-terrorism. So again, just touching on that. So it is a priority we look at, continue to look at this with our partners, and the prevent work that we do with our partners is key there. And if we see anyone who's at risk of being radicalised, we'll come together with social work, housing, education, and other relative partners, and look to support anyone that's vulnerable to that, and start to educate them so they don't fall victim to radicalisation. And then turning to the latter stage of the report, just for you to reviews we have in front of you, is the cumulative North Highland statistics for the end of the report. So that is my to the North Highland Command report for you.
That's really good, Kate. Thank you very much for that very comprehensive report. Greatly appreciated. I've got a couple of questions before I open it out to the rest of the committee. Looking at the page, that's 14 in our report, but I think it's actually 11 in your report with the stats. I'm just a bit confused with some of the numbers that are there. In group 1, it talked about non-sexual crimes of violence, and the total number there is 564. Yeah, if we go down through the figures, that we're much closer to 700. So I'm a bit confused with the numbers there. Maybe I'm getting this wrong, so apologies if I am. But similarly in the crimes of, let's say, not this one, this one, bear with me. Antisocial offences, it is 286. As group 6 anti-social offences, but if you dig down, just on threatening or abusive behaviour, we've got 403. So I'm just not curious with numbers. Can you just advise me or to clarify what these numbers actually represent, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll certainly have a look. Sorry, I'm picking some of the sound up there, so I'm maybe not picking everything up. So in relation to the figures at the back, so it's like 286 and was it 483, the threatening behaviour?
We have microphone problems in here, so I'll shout a little bit louder so you can hopefully hear me. And the 286 figure was group 6 and social offences, and yet in that line of numbers, they're for threatening or abusive behaviour. So this is 403. So obviously the total is going to be more than 286. I just wonder if you can clarify exactly what's happening.
I can certainly have a look at that for you and come back to your table on that. I don't know if it's actually detected or recorded, perhaps numbers. So I'll have a look and I'll come back to your table with that.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed. Generally speaking, I'm delighted with the general reduction in the figures that you've got today. So it's all down to, I'm sure, to the hard work of yourself and your colleagues, which we greatly appreciate. Members, do we have any questions for Kane?
I'll come in. Yeah, I noticed a reference to the spate of minor spate of break-ins at our Dornoch, and there's anecdotal talk of some minor antisocial events, but things that are coming at Mayor Community Council are speeding traffic. Now, I see the speed guys on the A9 fairly regularly, but I just wonder if the team ever hits the minor roads. For example, the stretch from the Evex corner into Dornoch Town Centre is getting quite a few complaints coming my direction.
Yeah,
If you don't have an answer straight away, I quite understand.
No, I can totally appreciate that. I'm very much aware of road safety concerns with your constituents and the public and to ourselves as well. So in relation to road traffic and speeding offences, no, we will, where we're aware of concerns and we're aware of that, we will look to target and enforce, educate in those areas. So no, absolutely, we'll take that forward. So I'll raise that to Inspector Levitt, that area you've highlighted there.
Yep.
Any other questions, members?
I just ask about the group 2. There's obviously an increase in crimes associated with indecent photographs of children. And just from things that have happened in the communities I work in recently, it's good to hear about collaboration with social work and education in some areas. And I'm just looking for confirmation that that would kick in also in communities where this has.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
this
absolutely. Yes, it's a total, care approach that we do. We work with all our partners in relation to that, and safety, vulnerability, educate. Absolutely, we work very closely with our public protection unit as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Kate. I know we've got two hands up online. Councillor Levin?
Hi, morning. I just wanted to agree with Jim about the speeding. I don't know whether anybody else has experienced it, but because I live quite near to the A9 in Helmsdale, there's been a lot of people complaining about sort of racing up and down towards the Navidale bends, and just the way that the geography is in the area, it really echoes all around the place. But it's been going on for a couple of weeks since, the summer months and what have you. The boy racers are out in the evenings, so I don't know whether there's anything that you guys can do about that.
No, absolutely. Happy to take that forward. Thanks for making us aware. And I think that's part of the messaging as well to your constituents and the members of the public, and the messaging we put out as well as, do make us aware. Do make us aware. And we will certainly direct patrols and enforcement in these areas.
Councillor Morrison?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, all. It was just regarding the tank station. Obviously, with no officer there just now, I got a complaint through the community council that it's a bit unkempt looking. So I was just wondering if somebody could spend a wee hour or two just sort of maybe clearing the weeds and trimming and things like that, just to keep it sort of complying with the rest of the village, because it is in the centre of the village, as you know. So, and just an update on officers. I take it the officers still travelling back and forth to cover the Tang area, so that's still the case. And thanks for the work that you all do. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you for making our estates department aware. Tongue is still vacant at the moment. You are correct, and we are covering that. Both, yes, there is an officer who is still in that post who travels from Allness. However, the area still gets the priority policing. We will cover that from Caithness as well. We will cover it from Easter Ross, Wester Ross. So it has certainly been areaed, and it will hopefully be, if it's not already, an officer in place soon. But thanks for raising about the building. I'll certainly take that forward.
Thanks for that. Just one more thing I've got I noted down there. We have got the same theme of speeding, basically. With the introduction of the 20 mile per hour limits through villages, we're noticing that they're being generally complied with during the daytime, but at night time, when the traffic's less, we've got lots of reports of speeding through villages, especially by heavy goods vehicles during the night, and they just totally disregard the speed limit as they go through, and yet it's usually sort of in the early hours of the morning, so there's nobody around to actually detect this kind of behaviour. It has been raised a couple of times, but there's been no real action being taken. So is that something you could possibly take forward with your traffic colleagues, please, Kate?
Absolutely, absolutely. And as I say, we do have the night shift officers, etc. So, as you know, there are officers on. So please, I will take that forward for you. Absolutely.
Thank you. One last thing for me. The figures you've given us with regards to road traffic collisions, etc., that's generally showing a reduction. And that's for 24-25. I'm very conscious that this year in Q1 we've had a number of localities on the Highland roads. We've had the road closures, etc. It seems to be particularly bad this year. Well, maybe that's just anecdotal, I'm not sure. But have you any figures that you can share with us for regarding report one? I know it's not part of this report, but it would be interesting to hear if there's been a general increase in RTCs over the last 3-4 months.
I don't have those figures available, but I'm certainly happy. I can certainly look to get them for you. Just looking with our road policing colleagues and to give you an indicative of what we have at that moment. But I'm afraid I don't have them for this report today.
That's okay, thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot, Claire.
No worries.
I think I'm not seeing any other hands. Thank you very much. Sorry, Brian.
I just ask for a wee update on the looking for police officer situation.
They're looking for a police officer. That post has been filled, and we're just waiting for that officer to be coming into the community. Again, out with me, I'm not sure of the dates in respect to that, but I am aware there is an officer who has been successful in that post.
Thank you.
And that will, of course, be covered by the Ullapool section at the moment as well. So, you know, there's a policing service there at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay, well, there's no other hands. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Please pass on our thanks to your colleagues for all the hard work that you do, keeping us safe in the Highlands. So it's greatly appreciated.
Lovely.
Okay,
Take care.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Okay, members, recommendations. Get back to them. 2 seconds. Things here. We are invited to note progress made against the objectives set in the Highland Local Policing Plan 23-26, Year 1, attached to the Annex A to this report for the period covering 1st of April 24, 31st of March 2025. Are we happy we've done that?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Right, moving on to item 5. This is the Northwest 2045 call to action. We have Michelle Hardy from Highland Council and Phil Parkins from Northwest 2045 to introduce this report. Thank you. Welcome, ladies. I don't know who's going to lead on the report, but the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks very much for having us. We're doing a little bit of a double act. So I'll introduce the work that's been going on, and then Sarah will talk to it in a little bit more detail, and I'll finish off. I'm just going to share my screen with you, if I may. We've got a few slides to go through. Okay, can you see that okay?
Yes, we can see that.
Great, perfect, thank you. So this is just really to talk to the work of the Northwest 2045 and also a little bit around the council's involvement and where all the work's at just now. So I'm sure many of you in the room are already aware, back in 2020, a collective group formed in the Northwest 2045, and in 2021 they published a community vision. So this is a group of development trusts, of landowners, of private sector, the public sector. I know Phil was quite heavily involved back then as well, and I'm sure some of the councillors in the room too. And the vision had 3 key aims really back then. So it was to create an attractive place for young people and families to live and work, to also be a model for a new, diverse and sustainable rural economy, and a place where communities can determine their own prospects. So again, great ambition, great vision. All of this, now I think some of you will have seen these maps before, but it's really just to highlight the context and the backdrop within which all this work is taking place. And this is a result of the census in 2022. If you look at the very first map, we can see that all of Highland is pale blue, which shows slight population growth. Great news. Then you look to the middle map, where the statistics are taken down to electoral ward level, and you start seeing the differences in the wards across Highland, and where there's huge population growth in Inverness, and where the population is declining, particularly up there in Sutherland. And then the third map we have, which brings things down to community council level, we can see the really stark, alarming differences across our region, but particularly up in northwest Sutherland, where it's bright red. So bright red means a population change or decline of more than 10%. So this is why we're focusing our work and our efforts up in northwest Sutherland. So a little bit of background as to our involvement. So right at the start of the Northwest 2045 collaborative being formed, there was involvement of the Highland Council. And then we are members of, initially it was the Convention of the Highlands and Islands had a population working group, but we've now moved under HIREP, the Highlands and Islands Regional Economic Partnership. And there's a cohort there from local authorities and Scottish Government, Highlands and Islands Enterprise, all working together to identify actions to support the areas which are suffering from acute depopulation. And one of the actions that we took forward a few years ago from this was part funded by Highlands and Isles Enterprise and the local authorities involved. So that was Highland, Argyll and Bute and the Western Isles. We each recruited a community settlement officer. And the idea was that this role, this person would be there to help new families come to the area and ease that process. However, for Highland Council, the wish was that the community settlement officer would be really focused on housing, working with landowners, working with the communities to try and identify land for housing, because we recognise that housing was one of the biggest issues of all in Northwest Sutherland. This is just a quick snapshot. So our community settlement officer is Boyd Alexander, and he has created this snapshot of housing projects that are currently underway at various stages across Northwest Sutherland. So some might just be in the planning stages, some we're reviewing tenders. I think there's concern because tenders are coming in at really, really high, unaffordable prices. But it's encouraging to see this. So at the moment, there are over 70 units at some stage of the process, so that's hopeful. And we know it'll be insufficient, but we'll build on this. And then just why we're here today is to talk about the recently published report. The Scottish Government brought out their Addressing Depopulation Action Plan back in 2024. And at that time, they also created an Addressing Depopulation Fund, which selected local authorities were invited to apply for. We did, and we secured the maximum amount of money, which was £60,000 for year one and £60,000 for year two. That funding we channeled again with I guess, advice from our various colleagues within Highland Council and the communities. We looked to channel that. So for year one, we spent some money on around half of it on feasibility work looking into childcare solutions for rural communities, specifically Northwest 2045. And the remaining, the balance, went to the Northwest 2045 to help them transform their vision from 2021 into an action plan. And the money helped the Northwest 2045 Collaborative commission extensive research, so really sort of up-to-date information and data, which in the end was actually really alarming. I think, we knew it was going to be a difficult read, but what actually came out made everyone realise that it wasn't possible for the community to create an action plan, because that would suggest they could deliver it by themselves. And so instead, what was published was a call to action, which is a call to all of us to work together to try and bring about change for our communities in Northwest Sutherland. I'm going to hand over now to Sarah. So Sarah Harkins is a part-time employee of Northwest 2045 and the Regional Land Use Partnership. She's a landowner herself, and most importantly of all, she lives in Killochbervie, so she's got a real feel of what's happening on the ground, and we've been working closely with Sarah. So I'll pass over.
Thank you very much, Michelle, and thank you very much for inviting me to attend this meeting. So, so as Michelle's outlined, we did a load of research, and you won't be surprised by any of the critical findings. Chronic depopulation and population sparsity, unaffordable housing, falling school rolls and scarce jobs, and I think really worrying that the 60% of the population will be 65 plus by 2045. So big issues to deal with. Next slide, please. So the areas of analysis were the following. So the population levels we looked at the decline in the population, which is 65% since 1900, with a 47% drop in young people aged 0 to 15 and a 45% rise in those aged 65 plus since 2001. So I think what Bigger Economics mentioned with this particular point was that we are facing an existential crisis with the ageing demographics and the shrinking communities. Then education and childcare, we're all aware that school rolls have dropped, but they've dropped by 33% since 2009 in our area. And you'll all be aware that many earlier settings have been under threat and will continue to be under threat due to low enrolment and also the high costs. And recruitment and retention of staff are a particular challenge. Health and social care, hugely under strain. The long distances really don't help. Maternity, dental and mental health services especially lacking, and the only care home in the area closed in 2023. Transport, heavily reliant on private vehicles due to inadequate public transport, and this can contribute to a real sense of social isolation, particularly for low income and elderly residents. Housing, high house prices and a large proportion of second homes, up to 20%, make housing unaffordable for many locals. And as Michelle said, there are lots of community-led housing projects underway, but they will still be, even if all those houses get built, that will still be insufficient to meet demand. And the economy is fragile. It's reliant on tourism, agriculture and construction. And staffing shortages and lack of housing really hinder growth. And poverty and cost of living, significant issue. Fuel poverty is huge, with up to 36% of households affected. And the rural premium increases costs for transport, food and energy. So lots of negative stuff. And you know, I think the challenges are systemic and interlinked, and we are trying really hard locally to do stuff, but we can't do it alone. And we need your help, and we're already getting your help. And I think that's a big message I want to say today, that Highland Council are being brilliant and super supportive. But we need to raise this to national level. And I guess the key thing we want to say is renewable is possible. We've got huge challenges, but there are also solutions out there. So this is a list of some of the local strengths and opportunities that we outlined in the report, and I'm not going to go through them all, but just going to pick out a few of them. And I think people and communities is our biggest strength and our biggest opportunity. We have astonishing people and communities across our whole area who all care very deeply about their communities and the land around us. And we've demonstrated it in the last couple of years that by coming together, we've really managed to help change happen. So, for instance, the Northwest 2045 has got a childcare group, and that's a mixture of parents, Northwest 2045 members, development trusts, and council representatives. And we, I think, have been instrumental in working with the communities and Highland Council to ensure that Kinlochbervie nursery reopened and that Dornoch has reopened on a part-time basis. And the development trusts across our area are doing extraordinary work. You know, they've got a whole host of developments in their pipelines, and maybe specifically housing. They've been, you know, instrumental in pushing with Boyd all the housing developments forward. And they've got loads of innovative ideas. And one of those innovative ideas, I suppose, talks to the environmental and biodiversity point on here. We are in the process of about to set up a community seaweed farm called Sutherland Community Seaweed. And this has been developed over the last few years, excuse me, led initially by Ascent Development Trust and Scowry Community Development Company, to look at having a seaweed farm across our area. So we would farm the seaweed at sea, and we would have a local nursery, potentially in Scowry, and we would have processing plants, ideally in Lochinver and in Kinlochbervie. And we've managed to get funding for various feasibility studies. We've now got a business plan, and we're about to form our community interest company, with our initial directors coming from Ascent Development Trust, Scowry, and Kinlochbervie Community Company, who've also got involved. The point of the seaweed is well, there's loads of points. It's job creation. It would boost the local economy, and biodiversity, can promote biodiversity in coastal areas, ecosystem restoration, carbon capture, a whole host of things. But it would be I would say it's not a new industry, because clearly seaweed has been something that communities have foraged for, over centuries. But this could be a new industry to bring new jobs and bring people to the area, and potentially bring back people to the area. And then finally on this slide, I think the language and the cultural heritage, we've also been doing some work around that as part of our regional land use partnership work. One of my colleagues has been doing a lot of work in our area, trying to capture oral histories, which are so important. Not quite sure where they're going to be hosted quite as yet, but that's an ongoing piece of work. Next slide, please. So one of the things that's happened this year, which has been, I think, super important, has been the formation of our steering group. So we now have representatives from each of our 7 community councils. So Coigach, Ascent, Scowry, Kinlochbervie, Dornoch, Tongue and Betty Hill. And that's it's led by Francis Gunn as the chair, and Ewan McLaughlin, who is Ascent Development Trust, is also in the steering group as Ascent Development Trust is the host for the Northwest 2045. So we've been meeting regularly, and the steering group is supporting and guiding our way forward. And it's just excellent to have representatives from each of the community councils. I think collaboration, partnership, investment are critical to move forward. I think no longer can we see that it's just up to local communities or Highland Council. It's up to a whole mixture of private sector, communities, Highland Council, Scottish Government, and I think us having now much more of an understanding of an overview. We're no longer looking at things in silos. We're looking at things. So the housing that Michelle's referred to, we're now looking at how do we, given that some of the price points have come back, are looking quite high, is there a way of actually bringing those down by working, not just looking at Dornoch or Kinlochbervie or Scowry or wherever, but actually looking at housing as a whole for the whole area. So yes, lots of action needed, but it feels a really exciting and positive time. And I'll now hand back to Michelle.
Thank you, Sarah. I don't quite know what's happening with the slides, but they don't seem to want to move forward. Oh, there we go. I've just got to press the button a few more times. I think what we can all see is that existing policies are not reversing depopulation, and things need to change. I think what we're excited about is that national attention is increasing, and we as a body, the Highland Council, we're on the COSLA Population Roundtable, we're on the Scottish Government's Addressing Depopulation Working Group. There's lots of activity going on with other local authorities, all learning from each other as well. I think what's exciting is there's a big spotlight on Northwest 2045, because it's recognised that this established collective group that formed there quite a few years ago now is very active, very willing. And even just last week I was contacted about or invited for us in Northwest 2045 to be involved in a Horizon Europe project, which is looking at rural demography and depopulation and looking at addressing these challenges. And so I think there's real recognition now of the work that's going on in Northwest Sutherland between us all, and that feels quite exciting. Momentum's building, and it's nice to feel that people are looking in and learning from what's going on there too. But I think what's really worrying is unless we do things differently, we're not going to get different outcomes. So change is absolutely essential. And the call for action report had it had lots of recommendations, but key ones are when we're designing our policy, our legislation, our strategies, etc., we really need to consider the impact on population. So in the same way that when we're doing papers in the council that we need to look at the impact, the sort of net zero implications or inequalities, it would be fabulous if we could also have something there around the impact of population so that all officers are cited on the issues that could come about. Public spending, so rethinking funding models and how funding is allocated to better support remote communities and rural communities. That feels fundamental. Sarah and I have both spoken about housing and childcare and then infrastructure. So that's everything from the roads to the digital side of things and jobs. It's all the very foundations of what we're trying to do. These are all vital components and they're all interlinked. They're not just one or the other. All of these need to be improved. And we've touched on this already, but that local knowledge is so important. The expertise of the people who are living this life in these communities often know the solutions themselves. And the fact that we've now got the steering group in Northwest 2045, which will help inform and lobby and guide national action, I think is really wonderful. So our final message really today for the call to action and the work that we're doing together is that the support nationally needs to be informed by local expertise. Trust the people on the ground that are living there. I think you could hear from Sarah already that Northwest 2045 is committed to driving that change through collaboration and innovation. And just over a week ago, we had a meeting up in Kinlochbervie. The Scottish Government's population team came up. They're looking now at the next phase of their Addressing Depopulation Action Plan, although we wish they'd called it Addressing Repopulation, but we're trying to be a bit more positive. But they came up to Kinlochbervie just over a week ago, and we had a fantastic meeting there. And with the community, we had other officers from Highland Council, Highlands Isles Enterprise was there, but most importantly for me was and Boyd, our community settlement officer. But most importantly, it was people from the community were around that table, informing and sharing. And I think Fiona Richardson and I discussed on the drive back down that it feels such a privilege to be working with people who are so positive and innovative and inspired and enthusiastic and energetic. So it's a real, I guess, a treat to be working with that team. We'd love to identify champions between us all. So I think those champions, I think all of us probably here on this call are already champions, are very mindful of what's going on in Northwest 2045 and the systemic challenges and the difficulties, but also the positivity and the opportunities that are there. So I think whether that's champions within the community, within the local authority, within the private sector or within Scottish Government, and I think we can see this happening, we can feel it building. So that's really nice, just going out and raising awareness even to help bring that change. We've discussed as a group things like, when I say a group, I'm also talking nationally at COSLA level about introducing special measures. What can we be doing that is really helpful? If a planning application comes in from one of these rural communities, can we fast track it? Is there a planning officer that's specifically dedicated to this geography who might understand it a bit better and understands the importance of time in these things. You know, this could be a house for somebody who's coming to do a job there that's currently living in a caravan, and it's trying to bring about that change quickly. And what else can we be doing? And looking at contracts in education, and we know that sometimes if we're having to advertise a job, and it might just be a temporary contract, but we know where a permanent contract would make it much more attractive, and we'd have fewer recruitment challenges then as well. So looking at how we can make things different and better and improve that. There's as much enthusiasm on the ground as you could wish for, but I think funding is really required at all levels. So things like this Horizon Europe project that we've been invited to join, that could bring a bit of funding if that's a possibility, or there'll be more addressing depopulation funding, possibly from the Scottish Government, but also at our own local level within a local authority. What else can we do? Can we ring fence funding from community regeneration funds or something that we know will be very well and wisely spent, making a huge difference to a really challenged communities in our area? And I think the big message of all of this from the call to action is the communities can't solve these systemic issues alone. We're in this together, and we want to bring the change and bring the improvements and make things better together. So thank you very much for listening to us.
Well, thank you both for that report. It was really interesting. And I've spent some time the last week or so reading through your comprehensive report on the call to action. It's very incisive, and I think it's there's a lot of really good information there. So I'm happy to open up the floor to any questions.
Pretty good way to warn from members first, Chair, but also coming all around.
Well, I think both Sarah and Michelle know that I'm a complete supporter of everything they've said, and I'm just so grateful, and all that enthusiasm is there. Just everything you've said, I would completely echo, and it is bleak, but at the same time, it's really well tackled by all the potential that's there, all the opportunities, and we're not at the beginning of it. So much has been done already, and reaching beyond the local. We have reached Scottish Government level. You have the population team. We're speaking with the Minister responsible for childcare and young people to try and get some more flexible legislation to fit these communities that are, you know, the requests are locally led. So, I mean, it's made my life an awful lot easier having the call to action, because everything I've been saying for the past 3 years is in the call to action. So, but thank you very much. And yeah, I feel it's an exciting time, and we can.
Well, all the years I've been here and the little good I've ever done in that time, I think this is the best paper, best report that's ever been put in front of me. And it's just a shame the press aren't here, because in other times should split it into sections and publish it every week just to get one out there. It's absolutely excellent. I will take a little bit of because I think you've been far too kind to Highland Council. Because Highland Council for a number of years now has, well, Inverness Council as I call it, has actually boosted the population size in Inverness and completely ignored the depopulation of rural areas. And I think it's good to know it's finally on board. Picking up on your page 72, my page 76, public spending across the rural areas. There's a strong argument that public policy in relation to spending is driving rather than combating depopulation. I think that should be bold and underlined, and also think it should say that public policy in general is driving rather than combating depopulation. And I'm looking at things like NPF4, the role of Nature Scott, the role of SEPA, and other such agencies, which I don't think have quite got the message yet. And I would encourage the message to go in that direction, or can we put it in that direction? And really, what is our role here? Are we in a position to actually we endorse this, obviously, but can we make sure that all Highland MSPs have it in front of them and ask for comment? I'd like to see a call for action is there. So what are our actions is my question. Oh, by the way, I'll pick up that bit of public spending if I'm permitted. Point of order at the end of the meeting, Chair. That's fine. I can focus on something in my own community.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we need to be shouting up to the heavens for what we're speaking. I think you'd be probably struggling to hear what we're saying in the chamber, I'm assuming. Yes.
I can hear a little bit. It's just, it's not hugely clear. But was there a question there at the end just saying, what are we doing next? Like, what are the next steps? Of
What, as a committee, what is our action?
I think what we need to be doing going forward is, as Jim has quite rightly said, looking at getting this information in front of all MSPs, and I particularly would like to see that in that we're in an election year for the Scottish Government. Then it's really pertinent to actually get that information in front of MSPs and prospective MSPs to see what they can do, what they want to put into their manifestos to actually make this all work. I think it's really important. Hugh, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Just to echo what my previous two colleagues have said. I think the main issue we have just now is the pricing of the tendering of the houses that were meant to start in Dornoch. They came back being too expensive to build. So, you know, they're never going to get the price that it's going to cost to build a house in Inverness to build it in Dornoch. So the council need to decide if they're going to be building houses in the Highlands or not. Because if they're not going to be building houses in the Highlands, they better just say that to us. Because, you know, they're going to be building them in probably Alipool and Rossshire, probably Caithness may even get them. But if they're not going to be building in Sutherland, then, you know, it's really time to let us know. And, you know, if it's going to cost £425,000 a unit, it's going to cost £425,000 a unit. You know, it is what it is. They can't, some of the firms didn't tender because they can't get boys to stay away overnight through the week. So it is, you know, the map's not going to lie as to where we live, and we can't change it. So at the end of the day, we just have to get on with what we have in front of us, and thanks for the report.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'm looking at any other hand. I've got one query for you myself. I'll try and shout up. On page 39 of the report, you talk about carbon sequestration, and there's a very large sums of money mentioned. I was wondering if you have any thoughts on how we actually access that or use it for our gain to invest in our area. We like £17 billion, I think was the number I noticed there. How can we actually turn that into a positive for investment?
I think that I think probably I will give you a waffly answer. So I'm not going to, but what I can do, if it's okay, is take that question away and kind of then come back with a proper answer, if that's okay.
That's fine, Sarah. It's striking me as a huge amount of money, and it's how do we actually turn that into an advantage for us? Anyway, thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other questions or any other hands up. I'd just like to thank you very much again for that really interesting report that you gave us, and I recognise that the hard work that you're all doing to try and reverse, or let's say this, reverse or to introduce a repopulation rather than reverse a depopulation. So well done for all the hard work there. There's very common themes. I've seen them so many times over the years, but you're focusing on them all and it's starting to make a real difference. So thank you very much for being today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Members were asked to note the North West 2045 call to action report, including next steps.
Endorse.
And well, you know, amended to endorse as well. Yes, I'm happy to do that. But Fiona can make a note of that for the minute. Thank you, Fiona. Okay, members, we're now on to item 6 of the agenda. As the area goes capital footpath programme. So, if we can move it in.
Morning. I thought I'd sit here so they have my back to everyone on the screen. Morning, everybody. Interesting report. Found some about myself interesting. So I've got 2 reports. The first one in front of you is Area Roads Capital Footpath Programme. It's the new report. It's usually I just bring the roads one and it's just a huge long list of roads. This one is focusing purely on footpaths. So at the moment, it's a very fledgling list in Appendix 1 at the end. We're just starting to build it. And with a lot of rural roads, we're never going to have the same amount of urban footpath. So hopefully this list will never become as long as the roads one in that respect. But so I'm asking you to approve the current listing at the moment that's there. We will build on it and work on it. And the funding has to come through the existing capital roads programme. So I know we agreed the priority list back in February, and this will come from those same funds. But I acknowledge we're halfway through the year at the moment, and we're going into winter. So I put forward a suggested allocation of 100,000 each, bearing in mind the 6 months of the financial year left. So that's my two requests of you. As I said, it is just, we look at footpaths in the same way we look at the roads. We do an allocation, inspections. They don't get the same road condition survey that the surface and carriageways get. So it's our inspectors, our staff out having that inspection of them in that respect. So there's a slightly different change on how we pull this list together in that respect. We don't have that asset assessment in the background to the same level. But as I say, we've started looking at the footpaths that we know are bad. We've got very small, I say small, it's 17. It's still 1,000, but it's going to be realistic. So really that's all it is. And I would hope in the future to bring this combined with the roads listing. So it might just be those two appendices in a future report when so we're ahead of the capital programme for the next financial year. But that's where this is. Any questions on it? It's a new one.
Okay, well, thanks, Josie. I think it's I'm delighted to see this report coming to us. It's something which you need to be looking at our good paths, but they're equally important. So I'm delighted. I'm more than delighted with the proposal. Michael would have it.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Josie, for this report. I noticed that quite a number are listed in the Bonbridge and surrounds area, and I constantly get constituents asking me when this is actually liable to take place. Have you got any time scale at all when you think you might be able to implement this scheme that you've now put before us?
So this report is bringing a capital listing for the next 6 months. So the anticipation is with the priorities we've got, we'd look at what we could spend 100,000 on if members were so minded to approve that figure. And then we would work over the winter up until end of March. So that would be the anticipation to deliver some of this in that 6-month period.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot. Any other questions, members?
Just a quick point.
Yeah.
Slav footpaths from the cathedral, trying to imagine where that is. Priority 5.
Oh, so they're on there.
Replacement of Slav footways at cathedral.
Replacement of slab footballs at the, I think that's in the grassed area, is it? It was something that was really wild.
Yeah.
And what I was will come in and say that this list is our priorities across. If there's anything that the members feel is missing or is of a higher priority than some of it, we need to review those and discuss it. We can either bring it forward at the next area business meeting, if you feel that there's something that you might add to the list or something that is a bit of a priority and we've not found them all. But I mean that the Dornoch one, is that something you think is a priority or you just weren't sure where?
I'll go by the professional assessment, Josie. It's not for me to say what's not the priority, really.
Yes.
In terms of it's in the days of the past, it used to be roadways crisscrossing there, so it's an improvement on that.
Yeah. Sometimes slabbed footways can be a slip and trip hazard.
That's the one thing I would pick up on.
Yeah, and that's when we start looking at the
I think I've been assessed with an artistic aspect.
There's a balance with heritage and shout to the heavens.
Jim, you speak up as well.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, we'll have a look at that, and we always have a view on whether we look at the slabs as to keep them for what the heritage is, what siting they're in, and what then is the safety issue and how we strike the balance.
Would you wish an opinion from County Council?
Not at this stage. I think they might fall into next year's listing,
Okay.
and then if there is concerns, we might have to delay that. So I wouldn't say that's an urgent priority right at the moment to resolve that issue.
Right.
Okay.
I think what we have here is an opportunity to identify footpaths we know need work, and this is the first step forward. We've got a proposed list, and we've actually got this on our agenda, which is really positive. So thank you very much for that. I'm not seeing any other hand members, so.
Can I just say thanks very much? I think it's great that we've got this, and also that it's dynamic, so we can be adding things and making suggestions. It's all existing footpaths that will be improved, and presuming that new footpaths would be a different budget. And
Yeah.
that will be worked into.
So this is the structural budget that we get for roads maintenance. So it tends to be maintaining the assets we have in that respect. Yeah. I spent that on building new ones. I still have ones falling apart. I could be in trouble.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? No? Okay. All right, members asked to approve the proposed prioritised area roads capital footpath programme for Sutherland area and agreed to allocate £100,000 from Sutherland roads capital budget to the footpath programme. Are we happy to do that?
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, members, moving on to item 7, which is also Tuesday. That is the winter service plan for 25-26.
Thank you. So again, already thinking of winter. We've had some of the warmest days already this year. But yeah, this is the winter service plan for 2025-26 for Sutherland. Essentially, it's the same as last year. There's been no major change to the council's winter policy, which was set in 2018. So there's been no requirement to revisit policy and change what we do and how we do it. There's been no change to my staffing establishment and the vehicles that we have. So essentially, it's going to be the same service delivered as we have for the last 6-7 years. There has been, since the last time I presented this committee, we now have a written policy that is published on the council's website, which has clarified a little bit more how and when they're provided and the process to go through for requesting them. It used to be a small paragraph in this report that's taken in and made reference to the written policy. As always, the winter resilience programme is still there, and I acknowledge we've had a couple of requests already about when are we filling up grip bins and things like that. Our squads are still on summer work, surfacing work. Once we sort of get into October, we will start filling up grip bins and looking at that and getting a bit more prepared for winter. So there's not really any change there in that respect. In terms of the report, priorities are the same. There's no real changes from previous years on winter. Other than the comment last year was really mild. We had a couple of weeks of snow and that was it. Yeah.
Okay. But Josie, one question I would have is you've got a list of all the offices and depots with all the operatives there. Are we fully staffed at the moment? How's recruitment going? Do we have all the critters that are listed? Are they all operational? So are we sort of all fueled up and ready to go?
No and no. We do have a number of vacancies at the moment. We are advertising for, I'll put it here. So Dornoch, there's a post advertised there, Argyll, Broda. We have one person yet starting Kilmacarby, which should give us a full complement of staff. Disappointingly, I think the person we thought was going to come to Lochimber is not looking like they're going to come, so we have to re-advertise that one. So there are a number of vacancies. Blair's got a vacancy as well at the moment. It is operational drivers is where we are struggling to recruit. What I've done is I've asked for the post to be advertised until, I think it was a 10-week process. I still have to revisit the Dornoch and the Lairg ones because they were new ones and get them extended, but it's just trying to have a long time recruitment. It worked for Killinburry, just keeping it open and seeing where we got. So we aren't fully staffed. In terms of lorries, Fleet are looking at the fleet, the current resources we have, and making them ready for winter and having a look at that. We are due seven new gritters to arrive for Sutherland before the start of our winter period. I've been told they'll arrive in 2s and 3s in that respect. So hopefully we'll be in a better position.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, well, best of luck with the recruitment. I think that's crucial to everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Members, any questions for Josie?
Community self-help, the applications go through the community councils and sometimes they seem to get stuck with the community councils. They come directly.
They need endorsement from the community councils.
And it's only the community council that can do that.
I'd have to really have a relook at what it says online, but my understanding is it does have to have a community endorsement in that respect. So maybe something to revisit and see where we are. I think we've had issues elsewhere when it hasn't been community endorsed.
Right, it's just they send me the copies of the application forms and there's nothing I can do with them and they all look fine to me, but what do I know? But it's just a shame if people are keen to do it, because I think once 1 or 2 people do it, another 2 might do it and it might be quite a useful thing, but if they get stuck then.
Yeah, we've not usually heard of community, those applications being stuck at that level.
Oh, well,
yeah, I have had, as I say, ones have come in the summer and we tend not to do much with them just now because we're focusing on other work. When we turn our attention to winter, so we start picking up on these things. Yeah, same with grit bins and salt heaps. What, just for members' information, our road staff's annual leave year is 1st of November to the 1st of October. So what we find in September, October, we're short on staff. So once they all come back, we pick up on dealing with that. It's just how their leave year fits in. It's slightly different from everybody else's. It just means we're coming into time where people are trying to use it or lose it with regard to holiday.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Josie. I'm sure you've probably told me this before, but the vacant posts, are they advertised as permanent posts or is it still short-term contracts that were?
We do not
seasonal?
advertise. We don't advertise for seasonal. We're always looking for permanent posts.
Right. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Any other questions, Josie? Any hands there? Okay, members, we're asked to approve the winter service plan for 25-26. We're happy to do that. Great. Okay. Josie, thank you very much for your time today. Much appreciated.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Josie.
Members, on item number 8, this is the Community Regeneration Fund Assessment of Applications. We have Fiona Garman on the mic. Good morning and welcome, Fiona. Can you hear us okay?
Morning. Yeah.
Shout.
No, I can hear you fine. Thank you. Morning, everyone.
Okay, do you want to just take us through the report or do you want to do a summary of how you want to play it?
I'm happy to go with what you prefer, Chair. Very briefly, members will all be aware of what the Community Regeneration Fund is. We've got a total of 10 projects requesting funding today, and that includes one which is the Development Officers Support Scheme that members had asked to be brought forward. currently in Sutherland, you have available funding of just over £1 million, and the requests today total £767,940. So there is sufficient funds available if members wish to approve all the projects in front of them today. I'm happy to go through the projects one by one, Chair, or I'm happy to just take questions if members have them. I think in summary, what I would say about the projects is they're all eligible, they've all assessed well in the scoring, and as a team, we have no concerns about them being deliverable within the required timescale.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Certainly, I've had time to read through all the applications, and I'm more than happy to accept them, but I'll throw it over to the floor. Anybody, any other thoughts on the matter? Not seeing any hands. Okay. Right, members, it's nice and straightforward, Fiona. Thank you very much yourself and Chloe for all the hard work that you put in.
Yes, indeed.
And was member who asked to consider the CRA applications presented and agree whether to approve, defer, etc., etc. You've got all the recommendations in front of you. Are you happy to accept the recommendations?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
That was an easy ride for you, Fiona.
Thank
very,
you.
very much once again. for
Thanks,
coming.
everybody.
Nice to
Bye-bye.
meet you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, members. It's nice and straightforward. I'm missing number 9.
Number 9 is to discussion.
Yes, members, item number 9 is the award discussion awards. I'll just get the correct wording here. I invite you to note the awards for the 2 wards, North West and Central Highland and East Highland and Enerton. Do you have any questions or concerns about that? Brilliant. Really want to raise. I'm not intending that many to introduce the report. Oh, all happy? Much. So on item number 10, health and repair and capital report, we have Grail, Ralph and Rory McLeod with us to introduce this report.
Is it just Rory?
Oh, just Rory, is it?
It's me today, Chair. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm afraid Graham is off on sick leave just now and he's not able to make it.
Sorry, Rory, we're struggling to hear you. Is this your microphone's a bit distorted for some reason?
Okay, let me just try the microphone. Is that better?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I think it's because I've changed. It's funny. It's a funny thing whenever you plug into a different docking station, it ends up messing with your settings. But I've just fixed that now. Thank you very much. So I'll just go into the report. I'm not going to read it out in detail. You should have the report in front of your members, but I'll just take you through the highlights. The report shows the performance of the repairs performance for the Sutherland County repairs team in 3 tables, and where we are measuring against benchmarks for emergency repairs response times, non-emergency repairs response times, and void turnaround times. In both wards in Sutherland, we have exceeded the Highland average and met our target for both emergency and non-emergency repairs. So the area team is performing very well in those regards. And also with probably the most importantly for repairs performance, we've improved our void turnaround times quite significantly in Q1 when we compare it to previous quarters. It's been a lot of work going into turning around some of the void properties that have been causing us a bit of a headache over the last couple of years, and we're starting the year with good performance in Sutherland. Moving on to capital, we're doing a slightly different format for the capital reporting. I'm hoping that members are able to see what some of the positive things are coming out of our capital team at the moment. We have engaged with the energy team to access better funding for energy efficiency works. which is leading to stronger outputs in energy efficiency works. And we're expecting that to be an ongoing enhancement to our program delivery over the next few years. You'll see in Appendix 1 where we are spending slightly ahead of our commitments in in energy efficiency, and you'll see in Appendix 2 where we have outlined what our major outputs are for capital delivery. I'll open it up to questions now. If members have got any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thanks for that, Rory. Thanks for the report. From my own perspective, the figures look pretty good to me. I think things are going in the right direction. I'd just like to thank you and your team for very prompt responses I get for any issues that I ever raised with regard to housing maintenance. Having to up to this floor. Any questions, members? No, I'm not seeing any hands, Rory. So off light today. So recommendation members are asked to note the provided on the housing performance in the period from 1st April 25, 30th June 2025. Are we happy to do that? Yeah. Yes. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, Rory. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members, and I will pass on your compliments to the team.
Thank you very much. Members, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change things a little bit. We're going to put item number 12 next instead of item number 11. That is the Dornoch Common Goods report, and I believe Phil is going to introduce that first. Thanks, Phil.
Okay, thank you, Chair. It's a standard report presenting the quarter 4 24-25, quarter 1 25-26 margin statements. With regards to last year, the income is higher than expected and budgeted due to backdated rent increases and higher investment income. On the expenditure side, the grants overspent. This was reported to committee, and as a result, the budget was increased. There's 5,000 for that, but there were underspends against other lines. At the year end, both of those factors contributed to a surplus of £82,890, bringing the balance to £318,520 a year. In the current year, income and expenditure on track, and the grants budget as revised has been revised up to £60,000, reflecting the £25,000 special grant made to East Sutherland Rescue Association as reported and agreed at committee in June this year.
Thanks for that, Phil. That's a very positive report, and it's good to see that the Dornoch Common Good appears to be thriving. So I'm very pleased with that. Members, any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can I just point out that there will be a number of projects coming forward now? It's I think there's frustration in the community over many years and nothing is happening. And so there's a move towards a new community centre, which has partial funding already in place to replace the existing Bijou premises in school health. And I think there's a major move to have indoor sports facilities again, given up on the council never providing these. So I think there will be feasibility studies to fund to start to move towards a self-help approach to these. And there are other bits and pieces of things which are just descending now. And I hope that the committee can view these sympathetically when they appear.
I'm sure we look forward to seeing the applications that come in. Thanks for that, Kevin. Any other questions or comments, members? No? Okay. Members are asked to scrutinise and note reports for 24-25 and 41-25-26 monitoring statements. The Dornoch Common Good Fund. We have done that. Thank you, members. Thank you for that, Phil. Moving on, members, the next item on the agenda is the last one, which is the minutes of the last meeting. We've had a statement from Fiona that there was an amendment to that she's given us details of. I'm just they're just there promoting. I believe Councillor McGilvery.
Point of order here. And I just have picking up the depopulation aspect earlier on in the papers. I think I'd like to register my disgust at the recent council amendments to the arrangements to the Dornoch service point staffing. And although its council officers have deemed this not to be a closure, it is seen very much in the community that it is indeed a closure of the facility, and that there will be no council officer permanently based at the service point. There's a deep frustration that is seen as it's an insult, effectively, to the community that the message is quite clear. The Highland Council doesn't see Dornoch as meriting even a day and a half of a council officer time to actually deal with issues that come forward. There is a telephone line in place and a call centre, and Highland are asked to actually pick up the damage and deal with such things as can't be dealt by telephone. But it's a very unsatisfactory arrangement. We're very aware that the council have been trying for 10 years to close that service point, and they're just one step away from finally doing it. And I think there is deep discontent, and I'd like to have that registered.
Yeah, thanks for that. The points have been noted, McGilvery. Okay, members. So that topic, like what I say, is the minutes from last meeting. Are we happy to note those? Okay, thank you very much. That brings the meeting to a close, members. Thank you very much for your attendance. It's fantastic to see all 6 of us here today. That's very good. So it's